Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror, the podcast. I am your host, Kevin L. Powers. I'm also the owner operator of Something Wicked Entertainment and Events, and I want to welcome you to our program today. So, if you have been with us, and I hope that you have been with us, at least for the last 2 years or more, you will realize that what we do in our program is we take an individual film and we kind of critique, analyze, have a general discussion and conversation about that in order to get to the meat and potatoes of that individual film. That being said, we do kind of go off on some tangents sometimes, but it's all for your entertainment value. It is always me and a special guest, and we will have a different title every week. But let's get to our special guest before I actually say the title of the movie we're going to talk about, even though you may already know from the title of the episode. But to talk to us today, I have Sarah Panazzo, and we are always glad to have her back. Thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
And today we are talking about the 1998 film Sphere, which I know some people are thinking that's not so much a horror, but it has those horror aspects and thriller aspects in it, and people do die in this film, as opposed to some of the other films that we have talked about, which may be the comedy horror or other types of subgenres like that. So it's going to be interesting to talk about this film, mostly because I am a huge fan of Michael Crichton, who wrote the original novel this film is based on, and this film, despite its many flaws, has an amazing cast. So with that, Panazzo, what is kind of when did you see this film for the very first time? What was your kind of general impressions of the film?
So I only watched it for the first time a few months ago. Growing up, I think I've seen like all of the other Michael Crichton adaptations, whether it's like Jurassic Park or any of the like colossal disaster movies that he has had, but I have never gotten to see this. And I saw the cast and I was like, oh my God, how have I never seen this? It looks fantastic. I'm gonna love it. And watching it, I was like, this is a very interesting concept. It's a very good, like, science-y movie, but I feel like it's too much science for people who are expecting like a sci-fi thriller or horror movie. It is very scientific. The whole chapter titles thing was just like mood ruiner, but it's a fun movie. It's very much like In the Mouth of Madness in what happens in the story, but I thought it was fun. It was a slow script that was not great, but the actors are fantastic. They are chewing the scenery and just having a blast.
So, so some of the aspects that you mentioned about the movie, like Michael Crichton is like he almost is like a techno guru when it comes to his stories because he puts so much science in all of his work. And for the first half of this film, there is a lot of that feels like it's like his novel. The chapter headings and all that's from his novel. It feels like his novel, but then I think someone decided, filmmakers, the studio, someone decided they need to buff up some of the action sequences and some of the more horror aspects to make it more exciting. Uh, that being said, that happens to a lot of his work because of how very scientific he is, and he likes his theories and his science in his books, but sometimes that doesn't translate so well to a film. um, for me, I saw this when it first came out at the theater because I really love the novel and the cast. I was a huge Dustin Hoffman and Sharon Stone fan. I was just getting into Samuel L. Jackson at the time. Really, I'd seen some of his films, but I had not seen nearly as many of his films that I had seen of Dustin Hoffman, and of course Sharon Stone, who's in Basic Instinct, which is one of my favorite films. But this film had this whole thing going for it, like, oh, Sphere is like one of my favorite Michael Crichton novels, like other than Congo, which I think they butchered as well as a movie, but still they tried to maintain that entertainment value more so than being authentic to the book. Like it should have been more like a scientific novel or movie, like the original version of the Andromeda Strain. That's
Mhm.
how it should have been.
Yes.
And I think I don't know if the audiences in the 90s would have liked to see the Andromeda Strain as Sphere or not. I think this is a product of the '90s movies. I really do. In hindsight, I think this is like a quintessential what they did with a lot of books at that time, where there's great concepts and certain things are really good in them, but we need to buff it up and filler it out for the modern day audiences to enjoy as entertainment. So
Yeah. Yeah, it's hard to believe that like in the 70s they did Andromeda Strain so well, and then you got this in the 90s, and it's like it should have been an easy like toss to make this a better movie, especially when we had, like I said, you get like a mixture of a little bit of Event Horizon or In the Mouth of Madness when you go into the more horror aspect of it or the sci-fi aspect of it. But the rest of it was just, yeah, it was not great.
now, if you've never seen Spirit before, and like Panazo here had not seen Spirit, she had not grown up with it like I had. Essentially, these group of three scientists are sequestered by the military to go into the deep ocean because the military has come across what they believe to be a spaceship. And they need to, these three, I can't even remember each type of scientist they were, but one of them, it was hard for me
They
to.
had like a marine biologist, a mathematician, astrophysicist, and psychologist.
Yeah.
And
Also,
it
yeah,
almost feels like you took everything out of a hat, but then it actually makes sense why those are together.
yeah, and Liev Schreiber is also in it. I almost keep forgetting because I
Oh,
didn't.
and Queen Latifah.
And Queen Latifah, yes, and Queen, so it's got a great cast. It's got a great cast. And so they all, and being a Michael Crichton story, the military's already set up a base down there, and before they go into this, what they believe to be a spacecraft, because that's the only thing they can think that it is, because it's they go in, so it's kind of like this thing is they want to know if they I forget. I think it's Sharon Stone who's supposed to be the person who decides what life on another planet is going to be like if they meet it, or was that Liev Schreiber's thing? I always forget now because
I
they're.
can't remember. I think it was Liev Schreiber, because they had the whole thing where they make fun of him then afterwards for coming up with this when it was fake in the first place. Because the guy himself was basically, or no, it was a,
Dustin Hoffman comes up with the thing, the people that
yeah,
he bring to do everything, and that was completely fabricated just so he can get a paycheck. Uh,
yeah, it was like he was writing his own sci-fi novel and decided to do that, except the government took it seriously.
Government took it seriously. Peter Coyote, another person who's in this one. You just reminded me of Peter Coyote's in here. So it's got a great cast. If nothing else, the movie has a great cast because this was designed to be a very big film when it came out. And so these scientists go into the deep sea, and they immediately start want to go into the spaceship because like, oh, first contact and all that type of stuff. But they think everything's dead because it's been in the, I think they say 3,000 years in the freaking or the water.
Something like that. It's been down there for multiple hundreds of years of some sort.
Yeah, so they go in, and they come across stuff that says I think it's I can't, it's not made in China. It's stuff that's very human, earth based. They
Yeah, it's all written in English.
all written in English, and then of course they come up again, come to a chamber with a giant sphere in it. The sphere doesn't show any reflections, which bothers Dustin Hoffman's character. He's the first one to notice that. It looks beautiful and all that type of stuff the way it is, but it's Liev Schreiber's character says it's like a perfect sphere, perfect sphere, which is uncommon in natural nature, stuff like that. But they don't know what it is. It's just sitting there, and so they think they don't know what to think of it, other than the fact that the ship is not displaying what it should until they get to the controls and they look into the history of what happened, the computer logs to see what happened to this ship. And some of these things are parceled out over time to build up suspense, which is what happened in the original novel. It's slow, it's methodical, it's very specific, and that's how the first half of the film really does play with the material. It builds up to it for a long time until you realize that Harry, who was played by Samuel L.
Samuel L.
Jackson,
Jackson.
decides to go into the sphere himself. But
Well, he doesn't even decide to go into it. He decides to touch it, which then like sucks you in some way. Like mentally, it sucks you in.
yeah,
It,
yeah, it's a weird thing that they don't really always explain. But what happens is he gets his mirror image of sorts gets sucked in, and of course, then he disappears within it. And the rest of the crew are kind of watching it. They're watching the monitor, and then he just disappears. And so they all think he goes into the sphere when that happens, but they don't know what happens to him until he just mysteriously shows back up. Um, but he has been changed from
mhm.
experience in the sphere, which we slowly see over the course of the rest of the film. And of course, this is where you get into a lot of the in the mouth of madness and other types of
Yeah,
ideal.
you start having some weird stuff happen. You get a whole lot of he went in the sphere, but he doesn't remember going in the sphere. Did any of us go in the sphere and not remember? Did you go in the sphere and not remember? And then you see the event logs of the ship at one point, and you find out that the ship itself is from the future that went through a black hole and landed in the 1700s. So it's just been sitting down there for another almost 300 years waiting for somebody to re-find them. And something happened where I think that's when they kind of discovered that the original people on the spaceship touched the sphere, and then they all went like crazy or something like that, and they all ended up killing each other, but they're not sure exactly what happened.
Yeah. Well, and there really is no kind of definition on what the actual sphere was.
Yeah.
It's you can think of it as a alien intelligence. You can think of it who really doesn't know. But when they go into, and this is the crux of the film, and mostly because I think Harry is the one who kind of instigates a lot of the stuff that happens. Because with Harry's character, he's really enamored with this book. Is it 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea? I think it's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
I believe so.
He
Yeah.
can't the book that he can't finish as a kid, which still haunts him to this day. So stuff in the book starts to actually appear in real life. There are schools of jellyfish that encompass the entire encampment, and
They're
inadvertently.
like massive jellyfish too. They're not like
They're
little ones.
no, no, no. They're massive jellyfishes, and the visual effects for this are really cool.
Yeah,
Everything
I was gonna say,
It's amazing for the film of this day. The visual effects are really cool because when you're watching Queen Latifah walk through the jellyfish, it's cool as shit. And you kind of wish that the whole film was kind of like this, but we don't get
yeah,
cool shots like this where she's walking through there and she gets stung to death by jellyfish because supposedly that happens in the book, and that's where Harry stopped reading the book. Now, the
and
real
it's fun then because then they actually find the book on the ship,
yeah.
and after that page, it's just blank. There
Yeah.
is nothing else of the book. But the jellyfish, they actually did it with the mixture of puppets, CGI, and then they sped up real footage of
Uh,
jellyfish to get all of the different aspects, which it looks fantastic. Like compared to some other movies in the 90s that came out, it's some great effects.
yeah, yeah. So now, the one of the big things you got to realize about this film is that from the very beginning, you realize that all four of these characters have a relationship with one another: Norman, Beth, Harry, and Ted. Ted is Liam Schreiber's character, Harry being Samuel Jackson's, Beth being Sharon Stone, and Norman being Dustin Hoffman. Because we've been mentioning the characters by the stars' name and not so much the
Mhm.
characters' names. Of course. So Norman and Beth had a relationship long ago, but he couldn't trust her because he thought she was like unbalanced, psychologically speaking. And of course, Harry is one of Norman's best friends. But the great relationship in this film, he has to deal with Harry and Ted, who have this kind of like antagonistic and professional relationship to one another. So they're always trying to one up each other. I find that to be one of the best relationships in the entire freaking film is what
Yeah.
they one another.
And
uh,
I mean, you're forgetting one main character, Jerry, the talking computer.
we hadn't gotten to Jerry yet. We hadn't gotten to Jerry yet. But yes, so after certain aspects of the story start to unfold, Jerry starts to talk to the entire crew, and so this is what they perceive to be what the sphere inside the time machine slash spaceship actually is. Jerry comes from there, but he's omniscient. I think it's omniscient, where he can see everything, and he just
Hear everything, and
talks.
yeah, and it's like he doesn't even come over talking normally. It comes over first as like a computer program, like they're being like blasted with spam or something like that, that's just overtaking the computer, and they finally break it down to English, where they put it into binary and convert it over to numbers and letters and everything else so they can finally talk to him. But then like it shows that he's listening to the microphones that they have in there, whether they have them on or not, and just everything else. It seems to start knowing way too much about all of them.
That aspect of the book I really loved. That was really cool reading that whole aspect of the book, in the book, and how that unfolded. In the movie, of course, you're watching the movie, and of course, you realize that it's Harry's inner thoughts that's personified Jerry. And this is where stuff gets weird for me, because
Yeah.
I like the concept of them going into the sphere, and kind of like this doppelganger type of version of them is set loose. But then since it's not consistent with each of the other characters when they go into the sphere, it seems really odd to me. It just seems like, okay, well, we don't know our rules for when you go into the sphere, but we're just gonna make stuff up. I'm trying to remember the other movie that happened, that we discussed, that was like that before, where
Yeah. I
yeah,
can't remember, but yeah, I mean, it's very much like it almost seems like Harry is replaced as a human being while the others are not.
yeah,
But then you also have that unreliable narration, because there's parts of the movie where you're like, wait, who is actually in this scene? Because it seems like the Jerry that we just, or the Harry we just had here is not the Harry we have 5 minutes ago.
mhm.
And then the same vice versa with everybody else's characters. You just have some weird time stuff. And I think it's kind of just all thrown together as like, it's sci-fi, it is what it is by the end of the movie.
Well, no, by the end of the movie, it gets really like, okay, this is just a little bit crazy. Because it starts like, if they had stuck with, like, in my opinion, like the doppelganger version of them, it would have been a much cooler aspect for each of them. But Norman at no point ever realizes he was ever in the sphere, so he never thinks he ever went in the sphere. And of course, he tries to convince Beth at one point that she went into the sphere, but she doesn't remember going to the sphere. But Beth and Harry act very weird after they've gone into the sphere, whereas Norman just seems like Norman. And that's some of the stuff that,
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah, and that's where it's like the whole unreliable narrator-esque stuff, because there's so many times where the characters shift, and that's why I'm like, I don't know if it's like one of them who it's from their perspective at that point in time is seeing what they think is happening versus and what they are intercepting as like, this is what this person's vibe is throwing off on me versus what that person actually meant. And you can
yeah,
almost have the same scene multiple ways with multiple different outcomes just because people all interpret things differently.
yeah. And I had that problem with Samuel Jackson's Harry towards the last third of the movie, because his you after he goes in the sphere, he is the most different, and he does not seem like the Harry he was before at
Yeah.
all. And even when there are scenes with the Jerry character, you kind of wonder, is that Harry? Because that doesn't really react as though that would have been Harry either.
Yeah.
It's very odd what they do with that. I don't think it was really well integrated, the concept that they wanted to do with that. It's all borrowed from the original novel, but some of it just doesn't translate as well, and that could be multiple different ways. The way that the director had, Samuel Jackson play the character in certain scenes, it just seems off. Because by the end of the film, where all the characters are really themselves at that point, you're wondering,
Mhm.
well, how did they really get back to being their original selves? Because for a good chunk of this movie, it seemed like they were doppelgangers. It doesn't really gel for me as well. Um,
Yeah, and this is where the whole movie itself, I mean, the book itself, it's an interesting concept. It
mhm.
can be done so much better. Like, like I said, if they went more of the whole like, well, that wasn't Harry acting like himself because what's his name? Norman saw him go into the shield or the sphere and thought that he was coming out different, so he always saw him as different after that.
Mm.
So there's a lot of that like perceived like suspicion that
Yes.
happens in any of the weird sci-fi movies of, oh, well, you touched the weird thing, so clearly something's going to be wrong with you,
Yeah.
whether it is or not. But there was a lot of, I feel like, wasted potential in this because it could have been very well done.
Mm. Well, I'll agree to that because the scene where Beth has Harry trapped in the lab and trying to get him to shoot himself with the tranquilizer or the stuff that knocks him out because he's
Yeah,
causing all of the chaos at the ship at that point. That's one of those weird scenes that, like, as a movie, it might work to create suspense and you could disjointedness and untrust between the characters. But when you're rewatching it, because I've seen the movie several times. I keep trying to watch this movie to try and like it, but there are certain just things I just really don't like in the last act of the movie. But that whole scene there is for me, it's very odd because I haven't been given enough to believe that Norman went into the sphere. No one knows he went into the sphere, and he doesn't know he's went to the sphere. And there's enough stuff that has happened for people to believe that he went into the sphere, like Samuel L. Jackson's with creating that whole Jerry character with the computer, and Queen Latifah dying and the other characters dying. I don't see that with Norman, so it's like a big leap of faith in terms of the story to believe that he went to the sphere, didn't know he went to the sphere, and that other shit is happening around. It's his fault.
well,
Um,
and so going off of that then, because the whole movie is based on belief essentially, like they believe they're not in the ship at the end, so they're
yes.
not. Who's to say that the other two didn't, they didn't believe that he went, they believed that he went in the ship and he didn't actually go in the sphere, but they believed he did, so he automatically gets whatever happens, because that's what they talk about at the end of the movie in larger part. But yeah, I remember pausing this movie so many times. The first time I watched it, I was like, I can't keep track of what's going on. It's all over the place. And I just kept being like, it's a sci-fi movie. Just move forward. We'll understand it later.
Yeah, you know what? And that could be there was a lot of sci-fi films in the 90s that were like this actually. Which is like kind of crazy. And when I saw this wasn't really advertised as like a horror film, but when you watch it, because if I remember correctly, it was more like a thriller with these huge stars in it in the 90s.
Yeah.
And I don't, I'm trying to remember because I read the book and everything, I had a different aspect when I saw it at the movies, but it didn't do well because I don't know why, because I can't just say why it came. I don't know, but it didn't do well. But you kind of get the impression that it wasn't appeasing any of the audience that it was targeting when it came out. I mean, the whole last third of this movie is such a mind fuck in terms of what you got to believe is real, what you believe is stuff that they've created on their own, or what you believe the sphere itself is doing to these three characters because they're the only ones left, and they've been endowed with this extraordinary superpower. That's the best way to explain it. That they don't know how to control. It's literally the reason why they give it up at the very end is that this they go into the sphere and the sphere endows them with this random superpower that their minds are too small to be able to control adequately, and essentially they destroy themselves, or at least the first crew destroyed themselves, and they don't want to destroy themselves. It's a very odd concept, but I don't know if it visually works because they have to explain all this in the very last scene.
Yeah, because if it could have been different. And like we said, like in the Mouth of Madness, they realize early on, like, okay, whatever you're is writing is happening is happening. I mean, they do it really well in Twilight Zone's It's a Good Life,
Mm.
where you've got the kid who has the power of whatever he thinks or can wants to do will happen. But yeah, this kind of leaves it as a mystery the entire movie until the end, and then they're like, yeah, that's why it makes sense. And it's like, this could have been done much better.
Uh, it most certainly could have. I won't say it won't, because that's one of the issues I have is the way they explain it all. Because essentially, that there's this long repeat sequence of them trying to get into the escape ship to get back to
Hmm.
the surface, and they believe that they are still on in the their habitat. I think it's what it's actually called. That I forget what the habitat they're
I
in.
can't remember. Yeah.
In the habitat, but they can't get out of it because they can't come to grips with what they're seeing and what they're feeling and what they're actually doing. And so it repeats. They get out, it repeats, it repeats, it repeats. No, it's not that button, it's that button. It's that whole sequence of that. That it may only seem like it's 30 seconds long, but it seems like it's 5 minutes in the movie that this scene
Yeah.
is going on. It feels long, and it should not feel long. It should not. And then, of course, they escape. They get to the surface, and because they're scientists, it finally all clicks to them. We've been endowed with this. I'm just paraphrasing everyone who's listening.
Yeah.
They've been endowed with this power that they got from the sphere, which they don't know exactly what it is, but they can't. Man was not meant to have this power, and they can't control it because it will help them destroy themselves. And so they wish it away. They kind of say, "We wish to not remember ever giving this power," and so therefore they don't have the power anymore. And blip, they don't remember anything. And that is why no one remembers anything about the spaceship or any of that stuff, because they don't remember it because they wished it away. And that is the resolution. And so, which is really odd to me.
Yeah, the whole thing. It's like we tied it up with a pretty bow, and it's like a 5-year-old tied a bunch of like socks around a present, and it's like, what did I just watch?
And then, well, it is what's funny is the sphere just ups and rises from the depths of the ocean through the waves on top. No one sees the sphere as it's
Yeah,
rising
it just
through. It just
explodes
keeps
into
going. It
space,
goes into
and
space, and you're like, so no one saw the sphere do that? Huh? Okay. There should be more questions asked for just in general about that. But yes, that's how it is, and it's like, oh shit. Now, I will say this. I remember a lot about the novel itself, but I don't remember the ending of the novel. And so I'm really hoping that the ending of the novel didn't end like that. And that's why I forgot the ending of the novel, because I really loved the novel. And then all of a sudden, when I was rewatching the movie, I was like, shit, I don't remember how the novel ended. Because I remember
yeah, I
all
feel like it was kind of similar, but it doesn't say anything about the sphere at all then.
So we don't know, you can do Sphere 2 and the Sphere comes back and does some other shit to someone else. But yes, it's it reminds me of that, and everyone's gonna look at me like I'm crazy because I love this movie and it's a horrible movie. So it's a guilty pleasure movie. It's god awful. But the movie Supernova, if you've seen that one. Have you seen that one, Panazzo?
I gotta look it up. I don't know if I have.
That's
Which
another
game is
space
that
horror
one?
movie, in which one guy comes across this alien bomb. They realize at the end of the movie it's really an alien bomb that was hidden in within a planet that was actually dug up, but it gives one of the characters these kind of supernatural powers and stuff, and it's essentially an alien bomb. It's like, well, that's just okay, they just stuck a bomb in the middle of the freaking planet, and then humans come by one day, dig it up. Yeah, it's a weird concept, and there's a reason why Walter Hill took his name off the movie, because he took his name off the movie because he thought it was so bad. But it's got James Spader in it. It was fun as shit. It's dumb. It's dumb. Don't. It's a dumb movie, but it's fun because James Spader makes bad movies watchable sometimes.
Well, and it's one of those things where like you can take that and you can take Event Horizon and you could say it's all the same sphere. It all does some weird, crazy ass bullshit. It's all the same universe.
You probably, yeah, you definitely could. You definitely could. Yeah. That's where I put this movie. It's not a guilty pleasure movie to me like Supernova was, because all the characters in that movie just fucking everything just ridiculous. It's just Kevin Spader for some reason and Angela Bassett make it fun. Uh,
I mean, it's like this movie. I mean, it's a great cast that it's hard to believe that they haven't done a movie together before. And then you
yeah,
see this and you're like, this was such wasted potential.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I don't think this cast, anyone in these casts has gotten back together yet. Although Liev Schreiber has gotten together with so many damn actors in so many movies now.
Right.
Samuel L. Jackson just tends to do anything with everybody. So, but it's unfortunate Dustin Hoffman is, I think, semi-retired right now. And
Hmm.
Sharon Stone, I still need to see whatever film she just did that I can't remember she just did. But yeah, and Queen Latifah,
She's not even acting anymore.
I think she was living a good life after all those residual checks off of her television shows. I don't know. I love Queen Latifah. I can't pick on Queen
She's
Latifah.
good. She's good. I know I loved growing up watching her, so I
And
can't
she
pick
does a
on
good
her.
job in this movie. She just doesn't give enough screen time, and they don't develop
Yeah.
the character enough. But she does a really good job for what she's in the movie for. She has one of the best deaths. She gets killed by the jellyfish. I'm like, dude, what more can you ask for? But yeah, uh, the thing about Michael Crichton's books that have been turned into movies, there are some really good ones. There are some really bad ones. Jurassic Park is really good. Lost World Jurassic Park doesn't follow the book at all.
Yeah.
Then you have what's it? Shit.
Eaters of the Dead, you've got
Eaters of the
this,
Dead, which is the other, they retitled it with what's his name in it?
The
Oh,
13th Warrior.
yes,
Yeah.
the 13th Warrior. I loved Eaters of the Dead. I liked the book. I liked the title. I hated when they changed the title. 13th.
Yeah, why would you change that? It's such an awesome title.
Yeah, yeah,
But I mean, like, if you look at most of his books, they are just stepping stones for some other works because there's been like how many different versions of like Eaters of the Dead at this point, whether it's that name or not. There's so many people who use this stuff for spin-off whatever. I mean, Timeline,
Oh, that was another bad one. Oh, I forgot about that one. Timeline
yeah,
bad. Although I didn't like the book for that one either, so that I kind of give them credit for that one. I didn't care for that book. It's one of the only ones of Michael Crichton's books that I've read that I did not care for. I just thought it was mediocre. But Rising Sun I absolutely loved, and oh shit, the one with Michael Douglas and fucking Demi Moore. Oh, it starts with a D. Disclosure. I thought was brilliant.
okay, yeah, because then also like the original Westworld, like
Oh yeah,
some of this stuff is some great, oh, and Twister, but
Twister.
some of this stuff is great concepts. It's great early writing
Mhm.
that is mind-blowing and has generally inspired multiple generations of people,
Yeah.
especially for film. Um, but yeah, it's just not quite as good as some of the others.
Well, yeah, it's not as good as it's not as entertaining as Congo. At least Congo had Tim Curry in it. So and an early Laura Linney.
Yeah.
Up scenery. That woman was chewing up scenery even in Congo. She's still a great actress. But yes. So that's what we get with Sphere. It's a shame. I don't know if it's a shame or it's just the luck of the draw that more people haven't heard of this movie, despite the huge cast it has in it. It's one of those films that kind of came, didn't do well, was completely forgotten, except for by people like me who actually saw the damn movie at the theater. Uh, and no one talks about this movie. I don't know of anyone who talks about this movie.
No.
It's kind of like Congo. People don't talk about Congo, and I fucking love Congo. As you know, it's not great, but it's so much fun because Tim Curry chews scenery like nobody's business. Uh, but and then of course some of the better movies I think are Disclosure and Rising Sun, but Westworld is probably the one with the longing, and Jurassic Park are the two with the
Hmm.
longest lasting effects. I guarantee you in a few years someone's going to come up with another concept for Westworld, and it'll be just as good as what they came up with before. And
Hmm.
Jurassic Park, Lost World, whatever you want to call it, ain't ever ending. It ain't
No, it's going nowhere.
is going nowhere. I do wish that I do think that this could work as a miniseries much better as something like which is like the Andromeda Strain when they redid that as a
Hmm.
television show. I thought the television version was actually really good as well. I think this one could do as well if they went and explored some of the concepts much better in a better way. And I think the longer runtime would allow them to do that, but don't try and make it into a television series, just like a mini series, and you
Yeah,
justice.
that's one of my main arguments for when books get adapted is if it's like a short story, it can be a movie. If it is an actual full-sized book, it needs to be a mini series or a TV show.
Especially with the concepts behind this, like
There's
yeah,
so much, and there's so much that you miss out on because you're not reading it that you can't just show in
yeah.
a 2 hour movie.
Yes, that's exactly correct. Because, like I said, reading the book is a different experience for this one because there's so much technical stuff in it that makes it flow naturally. Whereas in this film, you have to gloss over all that in order to get to the entertainment aspects of the film. I think a miniseries would work really well. So if anyone's listening to this that could produce a miniseries of Sphere, you should probably. Michael Crichton's Sphere. Coming to ABC or Netflix next year. Uh, with that, Panazzo, do you have any other comments about the movie Sphere?
Like I said, it's a fascinating concept. Going in, it's got a very smart story. The cast is great, but the movie itself is just not fantastic. I would definitely say give the book a try because Michael Crichton is just fantastic. But yeah, it's definitely something I would love to see readapted and reimagined because somebody could make this into something genius.
Yeah, let's give it to Christopher Nolan.
No,
Chris,
I'm thinking like True Detective style, like
well, it's time travel. You can see Christopher Nolan turning this on its head. Time travel and psychokinesis type thought processing and stuff. We can see this as Tenet, as Sphere. You know, I,
it's just going to be whatever Sphere is backwards.
yeah, it'll be Sphere backwards. So with that, I want to thank you for joining us on this conversation, Panazzo. For everyone listening, what we do on the show is we like to rate the movie between 1 and 5 stars. One being poor, 5 stars being excellent. Where on the spectrum would you place the movie?
I'm going to have to say it's like a solid 2. Like it's not the greatest horror or sci-fi movie ever, but it is fascinating, especially if you like science.
I was gonna give it a 2 too, mostly because it's having not seen the film in over 10 years. When I rewatched it for the podcast, I actually watched an upgraded Blu-ray version of the film. I was like, okay, the film still looks great. It starts off really good, really strong. It's the third act for me that ruins most of the story. And that's where my problems is, which is why I'm gonna give it a 2. It's not horrible. It's not one of those films that you're going to go back and watch unless the concepts dig into your soul enough for you to want to go back and figure some of that stuff out. If that is the case, go read the book. Uh,
Mhm.
go read the book. The book's amazing. Even if I don't remember everything that happens at the end, it makes me want to go back and read the book. So I need to go back and read that one. I have not read this book as much as I've read, say, Congo, Rising Sun, or Airframe. Airframe. I'm just telling everybody now. Airframe is one of my favorite Michael Crichton books. I mean, it's so sad they have not yet made the damn movie of that book. It's sad, sad.
Well, and for anybody who hasn't read a Michael Crichton book, or if you love Jurassic Park, you need to read the books.
Oh yeah.
They are super hardcore, so much better than a PG kids movie. As much as I love that movie, it is so metal.
Jurassic Park is fucking a great book, by the way.
Yes, my husband's currently reading The Lost World, and he's like, "This is fantastic."
Yeah. I will say this on a last note about Michael Crichton. I still have not read any of the books that were published post his death, which is
Hmm.
unfortunate, but there's a reason why he said that those were books those were books he didn't want to get published because he didn't think they were that good. And so I'm not sat down to read any of those. I've read everything before that. I have not read those yet. So I probably should sit down and read those just to see how good or bad they actually are. So, with that, I want to thank you all for joining us on our program today. I hope you've enjoyed our podcast on Sphere, whether or not you've seen the film before or not, whether you've enjoyed the film or not. We hope that this conversation has been entertaining and a pleasure for your listening ears. From all of us here at Something Wicked Entertainment and Broken Lighthouse Pictures, we hope that you have a pleasant day, and please make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe, do that thing you do with your favorite podcast on your favorite podcast app, Spotify or YouTube. And don't forget to check out our sister podcast, Conversations in Hammer Studio Horrors, which comes out every Friday, or actually every first and third Friday every month. And from all of us here, have a pleasant day, like I said, and don't touch any random alien spheres, okay? Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, written, produced, and directed by Kevin L. Powers, executive producer Kelly A. Inoka. All contents and material from this episode of Conversations in Horror is copyright 2025 Broken Lighthouse Pictures.